Hello and welcome to another What's Inside. Today we are looking at ASAP from University Games. This is ages 8 and up, 2 or more players. And it's the Quick Think game. This was from 1989. Got whatever up there. Pretty straightforward game. Box is nothing impressive at all. But it's a pretty decent game. So let's take a look at what is in the box. Alright, so here's our board. These are kind of cheaply made, like a lot of university games from this era. So you'll want to make sure that it's not too warped. This one is starting to warp, but I would especially keep an eye on the seam. This one's ripping here. And I never really played it that much, so it hasn't held up real well over time. It is definitely warping. You can see it's not staying together. So, kind of cheaply made board that you'll want to keep an eye on. Then we've got our rules, which is on this, what looks like ancient piece of parchment. But it's just really thick cardstock. It's actually pretty quality. It just faded really badly over time. And then you've got the solution book, which you'll definitely want to make sure this is in there. And this is several pages long. The staples rust really badly, as you can see. Mine, this was stored in a storage unit, and it rusted the staples up. They were really cheap staples. This says 1987, but it's from an earlier edition, I suppose. They just recycled it. Then we've got our cards, which we'll look at in a second. We've got our player pieces. I have 7 of them. Various colors: white, red, pink, blue, kind of a greenish teal, purple, and orange. Standard pieces, pretty easy to replace online, made of really cheap plastic. If you step on these with your shoe, they will break. If you step on them barefoot, they might break and wedge into your foot and make it bleed. I may have done that a few times with different games. So worth keeping an eye on the pieces to make sure they don't break. Like I said, you step on them or get any weight on them, they will break. This one is just warped from the plastic because it's really cheap plastic. That's how this piece came. I don't hold it against the piece, just the manufacturer. Then you get a D6, which this bag's broken, so I don't know why I kept it. Standard D6 for board games. Nothing particularly special. Old Faithful, reliable D6. Standard stuff. Now the cards are a weird size. They're not quite tarot card length, but they are kind of that width. So it's kind of hard to describe. Here's a pack of Wizard of Oz trading cards. That's all I have sitting here. We will look at these in another video. But you can see the size difference. These are standard baseball card size trading cards. And you can see how much bigger these are. So these are going to be hard to take care of. You're not going to be able to sleeve them. So let's take a look at these. These are just A through Z cards. And not anything particularly specific about them is unique, other than they have a very 80s look. So there are 26 of them. And that coloring is on the card. It's not somebody drawing on the cards. That's how they're supposed to look. And lastly, A. So these are actually really thin. I don't particularly care for that. I think they're a little too thin. They should have been made a little nicer. But considering the age of them, they have held up really well. So they will bend really easily, so be careful about that and make sure all 26 are here because they are important to the game itself. That's what's inside ASAP. It's supposed to be a fast game. You're supposed to have quick responses. There's not a lot to the game. It's just the board, the pieces, the game deck, and the instructions. And you got the solution book. Don't forget that. That's not mentioned on the box, but you do need it. So there's not a lot of pieces to be missing from here, and a lot of the pieces you could replicate if you had to. Moving pieces you could replace. Even the deck of A through Z, you could probably replace those or use some kind of substitution. But it would be kind of annoying. But if you're a board game fan, this is actually a pretty fun game. It's really about who can react fast and things like that. So it does have an element of speed to it and a little bit of a challenge that way. So aimed at ages 8 and up, 2 or more players. I found it best to play with about 4 players, and it's more fun if you have a bunch of adults playing. It's a good beer and pretzels kind of game. Kids can have their own fun with it, but they're not going to have the vocabulary that adults would have. So adults playing with kids are going to get bored. So if you're looking for a game to play with your kids that's not going to drive you nuts, this is not the game for you. But it is a fun game for adults to play if you're having a board game night or something with some friends over. This isn't bad. That being said, we've seen what's in the box. I've given you my take on it. That's going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for watching and supporting the channel. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to hit the like button. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss future reviews. If you'd like to help the channel in other ways, share the video around on your social media or donate to the channel through Patreon, monthly donations, or single donation through Streamlabs, or buy yourself something pretty from the Teespring store. Got all kinds of cool stuff up there. And as always, we hope to see you on the next one.